Okay, hello again. Yes, same place, same stogie. I still don't see how Freud could have smoked 30 of those a day. Yeesh. But anyway, um, although I could work on it. But anyway, after the language stuff in the chapter, right, they talk about some, and I might be going a little bit out of order. I don't have my book with me at the moment. Um, But basically, Skinner was interested in finding some applications for his approach. I mean, he believes that this is important information. Like we said towards the beginning of this chapter, chapter 5, Skinner said it's as if parents train their children to be annoying. So these are principles that he thought, should be used to better society and to help people and so forth. So he found some applications for the basic principles of operant conditioning, with basically in the field of education, also therapy. And there are still applications of this stuff in those fields to this day, of course. So first, you've got him being interested in the field of education, and he developed something called programmed learning, right? Programmed learning, which, was just applying operant conditioning principles to the learning process. And so he was interested in creating a sort of teaching machine that would follow these principles, these learning principles. And there are basically three educational principles that Skinner thought were important to be used to teach effectively and also to basically program machines. And nowadays, of course, we get all sorts of educational software nowadays that largely are programmed according to these same principles. So basically, he thought you should present information in small steps, this teaching machine, software nowadays on computers. This teaching machine should present information in small steps, right? Present the information in small steps to the student. Then learners should be given rapid feedback about the accuracy of their answers. So you present the information in small steps, you have them take a test, right? Small steps is the first principle. Then you have them take a test and you provide them with rapid feedback. Immediate feedback, and of course a computer can do that. Immediate feedback in regards to the accuracy of their answers. So that rapid feedback is principle number 2. And then basically the third principle is you let each individual learn at his or her own individual rate. Right? So you can put all the pupils at computers, have them study a learning module, might be called a module nowadays, but it's presenting information in small steps in a learning module. Once the student believes they've mastered that, they could take a little quiz on it. They're given rapid feedback, immediate feedback about their performance on that quiz. If, you can set it up so they have to get, I don't know, an 80 in order to move on to the next module, or maybe even a 100 before they can move on to the next module. So they study the material in the module, they take the test, give an immediate feedback about their performance on that test. If they don't get a passing grade, they go back and study the module again. So, one student, they're going at their own individual rate. One student might get through 10 modules in a day, another student might get through 2, but it doesn't matter. Each student is going at his or her own individual rate. So that's fine. So that's a good thing in many ways, Skinner would say. And of course, I don't know, maybe if we want to replace teachers with computers, we could do that. But there's something about the personal interaction, of course, that I like, and of course I like my paycheck. But anyway, although it could be more. But anyway, so there's some good things about obviously letting each student go at their individual rate, but I suppose, trying to do that in a classroom setting is more difficult, unless, like I said, unless you replace the teachers with computers. Of course, according to some sci-fi shows, movies, and so forth, that's what we're going to do someday. But maybe I can be in charge of the computers. That'd be nice. But anyway, so he's interested in doing some things, applying this to education. Reinforce appropriate behaviors, appropriate answers, give them rapid feedback, let them go at their own pace. Try to make learning, an enjoyable experience for them too. You don't want it to be unpleasant. You want it to be reinforcing. You want them to seek out more education. So it should be a relatively pleasant experience as well. You should be sure to reinforce them every now and then, but just every now and then, right? Those partial reinforcement schedules, right? They'll be interested in doing it more if you just reinforce them every now and then for education. But anyway, that's some of the stuff related to the education they talk about in there. Obviously, there are also applications of operant conditioning to therapy. Once again, the whole idea here is to reinforce appropriate behaviors. And so that's what you're interested in doing in using operant conditioning in behavior therapy. So one thing you can do in behavior therapy is called technique, or dare I say, phenomenon. Actually, it's not a phenomenon, but it allows me to say phenomenon a few times here, which I enjoy, of course. But anyway, contingency contracting. That's where you basically just draw up a contract, right? It can be between the client and the therapist. In the case of you're maybe helping a client quit smoking. Okay, we'll go with that example. Helping a client quit smoking, and basically you drop a contract. So you have it's all specified in the contract. It's very specific. Here's the desired behavior we want you to do. When you do that desired behavior, here's the reinforcement you will receive for doing it. Right? So you might have the client deposit what for them is a significant amount of money with the therapist, and every week they smoke one fewer pack of cigarettes, they get $100 back. Something as simple as that. Contingency contracting. Also, a variation of this, is used in, can be used and often is used in couples therapy, for instance. Couples therapy, where maybe you have the husband and wife draw up a contract. If the husband does this chore, then he'll receive this reinforcement for doing it. If the wife does this chore, then she'll receive this reinforcement for doing it. I don't know, maybe you can earn coupons, for hugs or kisses, or I don't know, for a guy, maybe time alone to smoke a cigar, whatever it might be, right? But once again, you work this out and you just drop a contract between the individuals in the relationship about, these are the desired behaviors. When you do them, this is the reinforcement that will occur. And once again, that's, one major issue in relationships is communication. This just makes it all very explicit. I mean, everybody knows. You talk it out. You work out the details. But essentially, it's just applying reinforcement to change behaviors, though. Another thing that's I often mention too that you should know for kind of applying operant conditioning to therapy and institutions and schools. Teachers sometimes do this sort of thing. May or may not know what it's called, but a token economy is what it is. Token, token economy. So this is where individuals can earn tokens, actual tokens or points or gold stars, whatever it might be. But they can earn tokens when they engage in appropriate behaviors, and then they can exchange those tokens or points for reinforcers at some point, right? So a lot of institutions, mental institutions, will do this. When patients engage in appropriate behaviors, they earn points. They can exchange those points for cigarettes or cigars or something, TV time, whatever it might be. Often have this sort of structured sort of structured sort of environment in prison settings too. So it might be surprising sometimes to have an inmate, and just this guy who's maybe crazy out on the streets, but he's a model inmate in prison. That's because of the reinforcement contingencies that are present in prison, right? He's in a very structured environment. Only certain behaviors are reinforced there. He engages in those behaviors that are reinforced, right? So that's one limitation of a token economy is it does control behavior very well as long as the person is within that token economy. But once the person leaves prison, leaves a mental institution, they move to a different environment where the reinforcement contingencies are once again completely different. They return to their old behavior because now that old behavior, that bad behavior, is going to now be reinforced. So it's just someone changing their behavior to match what the reinforcement contingencies in their environment. At least that's what Skinner would argue. And of course, in the classroom setting, you can have students earn stars, and when they earn a certain number of stars, they get to pick a toy or something like that. All those are examples of token economies. So that would be another thing that sometimes happens. Maybe a kid is a terror at home, and the parents are just so amazed to hear from the teacher that he behaves so well at school. Well, once again, he's in a token economy at school. What's reinforced is very specific and consistent. When he goes home, completely different behaviors are being reinforced. And so you see different behaviors. So at least those are some applications and some examples of applications of operant conditioning principles to education and to therapy type situations. So I think that's it for this video.